Would you ever swim in the ocean if you knew something like this could be lurking beneath you? A creature twice the size of a T-Rex, jaws wide enough to crush cars, a predator capable of swallowing multiple humans in a single bite. This wasn't a movie monster. It wasn't a legend. It was real. Meet the Megalodon, the largest shark and one of the most powerful predators to ever exist on Earth. And today, we're asking a terrifying question. What would really happen if Megalodon sharks had never gone extinct? This is If World. And this is how our oceans, our food, and our lives would change forever. For years, the internet has been flooded with claims that megalodons never actually disappeared. Some say they're hiding in the deepest parts of the ocean, others believe they've been lurking in the Mariana Trench, far beyond human reach. It's a compelling idea. After all, we've only explored a small percentage of the ocean. But here's the problem. If megalodons were still alive, we would absolutely know it. And here's why. First, the Mariana Trench would be the worst possible hiding place for a megalodon. Despite what many people think, megalodons were not cold water creatures. They thrived in warm, shallow seas. The trench is freezing, near zero temperatures, crushing pressure, very little food. A megalodon down there wouldn't survive long, if at all. Second, these sharks didn't just eat small fish. They hunted whales, dolphins, large marine mammals. If megalodons were still around, we would be seeing massive bite marks on whales all over the world. We'd be finding injured or half-eaten carcasses washing ashore, and yet, we don't. No fresh remains, no modern megalodon skeletons, no confirmed sightings, only teeth, and we've found thousands of them. That's because sharks never stop producing teeth. They lose them constantly, sometimes every couple of weeks. Over a lifetime, a single megalodon could go through nearly 40,000 teeth. Those teeth sink to the ocean floor and fossilize. That's why we find them everywhere. But finding teeth without bodies tells us something important. The megalodon is gone. But just because it's extinct doesn't mean it wasn't terrifying. Megalodons first appeared around 16 million years ago. At their peak, they reached lengths between 10 and 18 meters. That's longer than a school bus. They were apex predators in every sense of the word. Nothing hunted them, nothing challenged them. They ate fish, they ate dolphins, they ate whales, and then, about 2 million years ago, they vanished. Why? Scientists aren't completely sure. One theory suggests food shortages. As oceans cooled, prey animals moved into colder waters where megalodons struggled to follow. Another theory points to increased competition from smaller, faster predators, creatures that didn't need as much food to survive. Whatever the reason, the result was the same. The oceans became quieter, safer, at least for us. Because if megalodons were still alive today, the oceans would be a very different place. If megalodons were still alive today, the biggest change wouldn't be fear, it would be hunger. Because when you place a super predator back into an ecosystem, everything below it shifts, sometimes violently. The modern ocean food chain is relatively balanced. Sharks hunt fish. Large fish hunt smaller fish. Plankton feeds everything at the bottom. Now imagine dropping a 50-ton eating machine back into that system. A single adult megalodon needed roughly 1 in 100 kilograms of food every day. That's more than a ton. Every single day. And megalodons didn't snack, they hunted big. Whales would immediately become their primary target, and not just old or sick whales, healthy adults too. Modern whale populations already struggle due to human activity. Add megalodons to the mix, and those numbers crash. Fewer whales means fewer nutrients being recycled through the ocean. Whale waste fertilizes plankton. Plankton feeds fish. Fish feed everything else, remove whales, and the entire system starts unraveling. But megalodons wouldn't stop there. They'd also hunt large tuna, giant squid, dolphins, seals, anything worth the energy. This would cause a phenomenon scientists call a trophic cascade. Basically, when one species disappears or explodes in number, everything else reacts. Smaller predators would lose food. Some species would overpopulate. Others would vanish completely. The oceans wouldn't slowly adapt, they would destabilize. Entire regions would become ecological dead zones. Fishing stocks would collapse, not because humans overfished, but because something much bigger was eating first. And megalodons wouldn't care about fishing regulations. Which brings us to humans, because sooner or later, megalodons would notice us. Fishing boats would become moving buffets. Just like modern orcas that already steal fish from long lines, megalodons would learn fast. Follow the boats, take the catch. Sometimes, take the boat, not intentionally, just collateral damage. A megalodon bite meant for a whale could easily split a fishing vessel in half. Shipping routes would change, insurance costs would skyrocket. Some areas of the ocean would become effectively unusable. Entire fishing communities would collapse. Global seafood supply would shrink, prices would explode. And then, there are the beaches. Megalodons gave birth in warm, shallow waters, exactly the same places humans love to swim. Coastal areas would become high-risk zones, not because attacks would be constant, but because the consequences of one mistake would be catastrophic. You wouldn't need frequent attacks. You'd only need a few. Tourism would plummet. Beach cities would suffer economically. Entire coastlines would gain reputations no one wants. And remember, megalodons weren't solitary hunters. Evidence suggests they may have hunted in groups. Now imagine more than one. As oceans warm due to climate change, conditions would actually favor megalodons. More warm water, more breeding grounds, more juveniles surviving. Their population would grow, and the oceans would never be the same again. But here's the real question. Could humanity adapt, or would we be forced to abandon large parts of the ocean entirely? At first, humans wouldn't notice the megalodons. Not really. The ocean is big, and attacks would be rare, but history shows us something important. It doesn't take many incidents to change human behavior. It only takes one. A cargo ship disappears. No distress signal, no wreckage, just gone. Satellite data later shows something massive moving beneath the surface, much larger than any known whale. That's when fear enters the conversation. Shipping companies reroute vessels, insurance companies raise prices. Some routes are declared too dangerous to use. Global trade slows, and then it happens closer to shore. A deep-sea fishing boat vanishes off the coast. Another returns with half its hull missing, bitten clean through like plastic. No survivors. The news spreads fast. Megalodon. Suddenly, the ocean is no longer humanity's playground. It's someone else's territory. Beaches don't close everywhere, but warning systems appear. Drones patrol coastlines. Sonar buoys scan deep waters. Artificial intelligence tracks abnormal movement patterns. Swimming becomes restricted. Surfing becomes extreme sport, and not in a good way. Tourism-dependent cities struggle. Entire coastal economies take a hit, and then governments get involved. Navies deploy more sonar. Research vessels track migration patterns. Some nations consider something unthinkable, hunting megalodons. But here's the problem. A megalodon isn't a shark you can simply hunt. It's not a great white, it's not a whale, it's an apex predator that ruled the oceans for millions of years, and it's smarter than we expect. Attacking one would be risky. Provoking them could make things worse, because megalodons wouldn't just disappear quietly. They'd adapt. Like modern sharks, they'd learn. They'd avoid certain areas. They'd associate ships with food, or danger. And danger sometimes means aggression. Some scientists propose a different approach. Coexistence. Designing shipping routes away from breeding grounds, creating ocean no-go zones, using electromagnetic fields to deter sharks. Technology improves. Human behavior changes. But the ocean never becomes safe again, and deep down, everyone knows it. We're not at the top of the food chain out there. We never were. In Part 4, we'll explore the final question. Could megalodons actually survive long-term in today's oceans? Or would the modern world, and humanity itself, eventually drive them to extinction again? So, would megalodons actually survive in the modern world? At first, it might seem like they'd dominate forever. After all, they did it once before, but the world they ruled millions of years ago is not the world we live in today. Modern oceans are warmer in some areas, yes, but they're also louder, busier, more polluted, and most importantly, they're controlled by humans. Megalodons would face challenges they never had to deal with before. First, food scarcity. While whales still exist, their populations are far smaller than they were in prehistoric times. A creature that needs over a ton of food every day can't survive on limited prey forever. Overhunting by megalodons would reduce whale numbers even further, and eventually, the sharks themselves would suffer. Second, human interference. Even if humanity didn't actively hunt megalodons to extinction, our presence alone would change their fate. Shipping traffic disrupts migration routes. Underwater noise affects hunting behavior. Pollution poisons prey species. The ocean is no longer a quiet hunting ground. It's a hostile, artificial environment. Third, reproduction limits. Megalodons reproduce slowly. They gave birth in warm, shallow waters, the exact same places humans have claimed for cities, ports, and tourism. Those breeding grounds would shrink, juvenile survival rates would drop. Over time, populations would decline, not suddenly, not dramatically, but inevitably, which leads us to a strange conclusion. If megalodons had never gone extinct, they might be heading toward extinction again, just slower, quieter. This time, not because of climate alone but to answer. Bots kan ba imtar, bobai kerbaisker kite amwanbade si. Then sui nest and body. But here's the unsettling part. Even if megalodons disappeared once more, they would leave a permanent mark on humanity. We would never look at the ocean the same way again. The idea that something bigger, stronger, and completely indifferent could exist just beneath the surface would stay with us. It would remind us that Earth was never built for humans. We simply learned how to survive on it. The oceans don't belong to us. They never did. We just borrowed them during a quiet chapter of Earth's history. And someday, another chapter will begin. This is If World. If you enjoy exploring the most dangerous what-if scenarios, the creatures that once ruled our planet, and the thin line between humanity and extinction, subscribe to If World. Because curiosity isn't just about learning. Sometimes, it's about survival.